Thanks to Surfshark VPN for sponsoring this video. The Mario vs. Donkey Kong series has to be one of the most odd and forgotten franchises yet, with the classic Mario and Donkey Kong rivalry continuing on, completely ignoring the iconic Bowser takes Princess Peach plotline and completely reinventing the gameplay style as we know it. We've seen this series progress as a 2D platformer, do a 2D strategy stage builder, and eventually end up as an amiibo advertisement, which is fine by me. So let's take a look at the rise and fall of the Mario vs. Donkey Kong series. We can't possibly mention any game in the series before talking about the Donkey Kong game from 1994 on Game Boy, which fans now call Donkey Kong 94, which is fitting. This was a new take on a classic Donkey Kong arcade game and Donkey Kong Jr. Donkey Kong 94 technically isn't in the Mario vs. Donkey Kong series, but it was clearly the starting point to what would eventually come to the Mario vs. Donkey Kong franchise. In this game, you play as Mario and go through 2D puzzle-based levels. You bring keys to doors to finish the stage, and you try to get to Donkey Kong to save Pauline. It's very similar to the classic games, but more fleshed out. There's also a significant upgrade to Mario's movement, especially with his new jumping and flipping abilities. He must have had a good slice of pizza pie! The game was a hit and was a top-selling video game for the month of October and November in UK during its launch year. Even reviewers gave it glowing reviews, with them being impressed with the game's way of reimagining the classic Donkey Kong, while also keeping the gameplay engaging and fun. Currently, the only way to play this today is by having the physical game, or if you already have the game on the 3DS Virtual Console, but you can't download 3DS games because that's done now. You just can't. So if you didn't have it on Virtual Console, it's too late now. Goodbye Virtual Console, that's done. Donkey Kong 94 was such a success that now Sonic made an LCD watch based on this game. I can't find any surviving information on how successful this product was, but hey, if you want one, they're only $125 on eBay. I was thinking about getting a new watch anyway. Several years later, Nintendo wanted to remaster this game. Make it new, make it fresh. They planned to make it have better graphics and backgrounds, and even wanted to create a mode that allowed players to create their own levels using the GameCube with the Game Boy Advance link cable. This new version would be named Donkey Kong Plus, and was even shown on E3 in 2002, but would slowly get lost in history as Nintendo went silent on the game and ended up scrapping it. The idea wasn't completely dead because we eventually saw the release of Mario vs. Donkey Kong on Game Boy Advance in 2004. And thus, the series was born, completely rebranding the title. While this game looks substantially better, it lost one of its most ambitious features with the absence of the level creator fans were hoping for in the canned Donkey Kong Plus. So what made Mario vs. Donkey Kong so great? And what was it that started the steady rise of the series? Let's find out. Mario vs. Donkey Kong was a new spin on the classic Mario and Donkey Kong rivalry, and was a fun callback to fans who forgot about the origins of the franchise, as they had been already fighting Mario's new main boss, Bowser, and had been partying up with Donkey Kong like nothing ever happened. So it was a cute callback to see these two duke it out again. The game starts with Donkey Kong thirsty for Mario's new toy line, because for some reason Mario has his own toy line. I don't really know what to think about that. Long story short, Donkey Kong busts into the toy factory because he's mad that they're sold out at the local GameStop, steals all the mini Mario toys and takes off. And it's up to Mario to go save them. And just like Donkey Kong, hackers can steal stuff from you, like your personal information. Thankfully, you won't end up like Mario, because this video is sponsored by Surfshark VPN. Surfshark VPN allows you to anonymously surf the web without worrying about any mean beans peeking at your information. It would suck if you couldn't buy the next Fortnite Battle Pass because someone stole your banking information last time you were using the public Wi-Fi at McDonald's. Or for them to find out your account password for your favorite game and sell all your items. Protect this data and more using a virtual private network like Surfshark. When using Surfshark, your data is encrypted end-to-end so nobody snooping can tell what it is. Or maybe you don't want anyone, including your ISP, to know what questionable anime you're watching. I may judge you for your viewing habits, but Surfshark won't. Using their VPN, no one, including your internet service provider, will know you've watched Season 3 of Magical Girl Super Sparkle Sparkle Glittery Crisis. Another reason I like using Surfshark VPN is to get around regional content blocking. I recently went on a trip and wanted to watch and download shows before I went on my long flight back. So I turned on my VPN and set my location to Canada. Then I was able to download and enjoy my shows like The Office on my flight back. So if you want to check it out, you can use the code RUSSDEAL to get 3 months free and click the first link in my description. Or you can scan the code on screen. And if you're not satisfied with your purchase, they offer a 30-day money-back guarantee, so there's no risk in giving it a try. Back to Mario vs. Donkey Kong on GBA. This game closely followed the formula of Donkey Kong 94. The concepts are very similar, from getting keys to doors to Mario's handstand, triple jump, and we can't forget about his sideways somersault, and always getting to Donkey Kong one way or the other. There's also levels that make Mario lead a flock of his toys from point A to point B. And of course, there are boss levels which add a wonderful side of suspense. As people continued playing, there are also a handful of more challenging expert levels that you could complete too. This game was yet another success, with the average score of 81 on Metacritic. It was mainly praised for being a better looking Donkey Kong 94, with the only complaint being the lack of challenge for hardcore fans and that it could feel a tad repetitive over time. If only they had a chance to fix that. Oh wait, they did! As we all know, this game would eventually get a remake on Switch, but we'll talk about that later. The first Mario vs. Donkey Kong game also had a hidden feature that wasn't promoted at all, with the support of the elusive and rare Nintendo e-reader. The e-reader is kind of like the first version of Amiibo cards. Using the e-reader and special cards, some games would allow you to scan those cards and unlock certain features in-game that supported them. It's kind of wild. Well, turns out, there's actually Mario vs. Donkey Kong e-reader cards, which is of course why I'm talking about it. There were officially 6 e-reader cards released for this game, but they only released 1,000 sets. The only way one was able to obtain these cards was by entering a competition. Only 1,000 of those people could win a set of the 5 cards. So what about the 6th one? The 6th one was given away at the 2004 World Hobby Fair in Japan, where Mario and Donkey Kong made a big appearance, showing off the new Mario vs. Donkey Kong game, and of course everybody's favorite, Donkey Konga 2. When players scanned their cards into the game, it brought up a menu to play 12 unique levels, which most likely meant that Nintendo was planning on releasing these 12 Amiibo cards at retail stores. But due to the e-reader's lack of sales in North America, and Europe ultimately discontinuing support for this accessory, Nintendo never ended up releasing these cards. These are considered to be one of the rarest e-reader cards to get a hold of, and will run you at least $3,000 for a single card. And even if you wanted to buy a complete set, it doesn't look like anyone has them for sale. The 12 levels were on all versions of the game, but locked permanently, though fans were able to get them running using action replays. The only way that fans could play this is by having the original physical game, or if you were part of the Ambassador program back when the 3DS was launched. The game was given to you if you bought the 3DS before the massive price cut of the system, but was never made available outside of that. It was, however, released on the Wii U Virtual Console in 2017. The next game in the series took a slight turn, and ditched the 2D platforming fun we were all expecting. Instead, Nintendo gave us a fresh take by creating a 2D puzzle game called Mario vs. Donkey Kong 2 March of the Minis, which released on DS in North America in 2006 and everywhere else, including Japan, in 2007. This is where I personally started my Mario vs. Donkey Kong journey, and also where Pauline's new design debuted. The story is similar to the first game, but instead of Donkey Kong trying to steal all the toys, he just takes Pauline. That is bold, my boy. You know what they say, if they're out of Big Macs, just take the employees. Instead of Mario going after Donkey Kong and saving the day, he gets the toys to do it for him. Delegation at its finest. Instead of you jumping around as Mario, you're controlling each mini Mario by using the DS touchscreen and swiping them to move down pipes, jump, switch directions, and you can tap elements in the level to aid these toys to the goal. There's also a varying degree of level types, there's mini games, bosses, and more. For the older viewers of this channel, the gameplay might look familiar to you. It's clear that this game was heavily influenced by the timeless classic Lemmings, where you essentially try and get all your little lemming guys safely to the exit. It's an OG. And the scrapped feature that was originally intended for the first Mario vs. Donkey Kong game made its way to this sequel, that being the level creator. And you'd be able to share your levels with others all through a wireless internet connection. Yes, it's wild to think that the DS had any sort of internet connection at all. You could upload 8 of your own levels on your device and upload and share them. And you could even download up to 24 levels made by others in the community. And as you completed the main game, you'd slowly unlock more and more assets to use in the construction zone mode. This had everything a sequel needed: new toys, new gimmicks, and an online mode. This game was rated fairly similarly to the last installment with a score of 76 on Metacritic, and sold 1.24 million units worldwide. So it did good enough, and it made a follow-up title all the more likely, which is why they made another game. In fact, they made the next Mario vs. Donkey Kong game almost identical to March of the Minis. This new installment was named Mario vs. Donkey Kong Minis March Again, which released via DSiWare. Remember DSiWare? I don't actually remember DSiWare. It was where you could buy digital games on the DSi. This was released in 2009 and was extremely similar to the last installment, just with slightly new animations and stages. Unlike the last game, this time instead of controlling the mini Marios, you're just altering the stage to get these little guys to the finish line. And they also added some new construction zone pieces. But besides that, there's not really much to say about this. It was a decently upgraded sequel to the sequel that came before it, just a little more polished in a simplified way. And similar to the past, this scored well on Metacritic at an 82. So moving on to the next game, we have Mario vs. Donkey Kong Mini Land Mayhem on DS. Now, I played a ton of this game growing up. In my opinion, it was the best this formula has seen. Like the last game, instead of controlling the mini toys by swiping and tapping, you're tasked with quickly changing the environment around you to get the minis where they need to go. The main way of controlling the characters was with this bar system, dragging the floor from one point to another, creating a wall or a floor of sorts. This felt way better than past games. It only allows you to use a certain amount of bars at a time and makes you strategically think about where you want to place the next floor. This one just hits different and in my opinion looks a lot better than the last installment. I just like the overall art style and the wide varieties of the minis this time. There's also mini games, a plus mode with more difficulty, and the addition of the similar construction zone which allowed you to build levels. This game was once again loved by fans and got a Metacritic score of 79, with the reviewers having very little issues with this game overall. But it's important to note the time frame that this game released. Mini-Land Mayhem released at the end of 2010 in North America and Japan, and was released to the rest of the world in spring 2011. You know what else came out in 2011? Nintendo's brand new handheld system, the 3DS. And this was the beginning of the end of the DS era. Now, it's hard to say that this game flopped, because it didn't at all, and got close to 3 million units sold. But this came out so late in the DS's life that I can't imagine the shelf life lasted that long. There were obviously still tons of people playing it, but it was time they started bringing these DS games to a new 3DS style. And in 2013, they eventually did, with the release of Mario and Donkey Kong Minis on the Move on 3DS. Wait a second, Mario and? Nintendo went off-brand for this one. They changed the verses to an end. What they make up? What happened between now and the last game? Clearly, this franchise was having some sort of identity crisis. Not only was the branding changed, but this was no longer the 2D puzzle strategy game we were used to. Instead, this turned into a 3D path builder that made you dodge obstacles and get from the warp pipe to collecting tokens to finish on this star icon. This was just very different. It wasn't bad, just different. This was most likely a way to branch this type of idea into a 3DS gimmick. And I will say, it is cool to see these minis have all 3D designs with new animations. And there's a good amount of additional content too. And critics also liked it, with this game scoring a 78 on Metacritic. But the true tipping point of this franchise was, of course, Tipping Stars on Wii U and 3DS, released in March 2015. Do me a favor and remember what it was like to be a Nintendo fan in 2015. The Wii U was selling terribly, and Nintendo was hanging on for dear life. We did get some memorable hits back then, like Kirby and the Rainbow Curse, Mario Maker, and heck, the start of a massive series, Splatoon. But then we also have to remember Nintendo was also giving us stains like Mario Party 10, Mario Tennis Ultra Smash, and Amiibo Festival. So, needless to say, it was a 50-50 chance we would be disappointed during each launch. But then we got the announcement of this new Mario vs. Donkey Kong game in a January 2015 Direct. They showed off a feature that was never before seen on a Nintendo console: cross-platform and cross-purchasing compatibility. Meaning once you bought the game on the 3DS or Wii U, you'd be sent a code for the opposite version of the game. If you had both systems, then you'd be able to then transfer your world from one console to the other. While the idea sounds good on paper, how many people actually use this feature? I don't know, but I can't imagine there'd be that many. What's most interesting about this concept is the physical release. Here in North America, it was a digital-only game, but in Europe and Japan, they had physical releases. But what's even more weird is that in Europe, the physical copies weren't even physical. They were boxes with the code inside, and that code would then allow you to redeem another code for the other version, but only after you redeem the first code. So in Europe, they had two boxes on the shelf that offered the same thing, just in different order. What's even the point of that? It was just a very odd release. And in Japan, they actually did get physical cartridges and discs, which already included the code for the opposite console. There's a reason that Nintendo generally stays away from code and box games now, just like Bayonetta. But I made a whole other video on that, so check that out after. Anyways, back to Tipping Stars. How was it? Well, after the incredibly lazy opening, we learned that it's very similar to the past 2D puzzle games. Nice! The level design and concept was extremely similar to the previous DS title, Mini Mayhem, with the bars and getting into doors and so on. But this game wanted to be hip and add the cool concept of tipping stars. Mamma mia. Just like past titles, there was the addition of building your own stages, and with the help of Miiverse, sharing and playing stages was easier than ever. And Nintendo made this whole level design thing very unique. It was kind of like Mario Maker in a way, but before Mario Maker. It works by uploading a stage you made with the assets you already own. As people play your level, they can tip you up to 5 stars depending on how much they like the level. How do you obtain stars? By playing other levels. So once you acquired stars, you could either use them to unlock parts for yourself or tip them to levels you enjoyed, so creators who receive the stars can then spend them to get more assets for their levels. You can either look at that as a really cool concept or look at that as a really dumb one. On one hand, it's a unique idea, trying to make stages better and better so people give you stars, but it's kind of dumb because then the most efficient way to get stars is by having people play your levels, which is impossible now because the service is just shut down. And they named the whole game on this feature, Tipping Stars. So it's just one of those really unnecessary Nintendo experiments that could have worked better, but left a lot of players dry and made the game die really fast. Especially since Nintendo's other stage builder, Mario Maker, would be far better and more enjoyable and would be released the same year shortly after, making this game completely irrelevant within a calendar year. What do critics say though? Well, surprisingly, they didn't mind it as much as I did, with the game scoring 70 on Metacritic, which is still the worst scored game out of the bunch so far, with seemingly the best part of it being the official Nintendo stages. And yes, it sticks to the classic Mario vs. Donkey Kong, but without innovating all too much. I did like the new 3D models and beautiful graphics on the Wii U, but this game had completely become irrelevant. The game actually started out out as an early tech demo for game developers, which was revealed at the Game Developers Conference in March 2014. It was there to show off Nintendo's web framework, a set of tools for developers to make Wii U games with simple programming languages such as HTML5. I don't know what that is, but I'm assuming you can make games with it. The game ended up being an irrelevant experiment as Nintendo threw it away with the demise of the Miiverse service and online features. But I do believe it was kind of a test for the Mario Maker servers before they published that game. But this franchise really fell off with the release of Mario and Friends Amiibo Challenge, removing itself once again from the Mario vs. Donkey Kong branding, as there's not actually a rivalry between the two in this one either. This game is probably as worse as it gets. This was released in early access at local retailers with the purchase of any amiibo on March 25th, 2016, and was officially released in April for free. This is a game that you can only play with amiibos. It can be any amiibo, it just has to be an amiibo. By scanning any of the compatible Super Mario amiibo onto the Wii U or 3DS, you can unlock a few levels based on the corresponding character. Each character would have unique abilities as they go through the levels, like Luigi jumping high, or Bowser being a big boy. You could also play levels with Little Robot Guy if you didn't have any Super Mario amiibos, but that was way less cool. This game was incredibly short and felt like more of an obligation for those who invested into amiibo already. Obviously, you can't expect too much from a free game. It was an incredibly unique concept, and I really liked the idea of exclusive games for those who collected amiibo. Obviously, someone like me really liked it because, I have all the amiibo. And I'd love to see more use cases for these silly statues. It's super charming with 50 themed levels and a couple secret ones, but there wasn't much going for it, as I'm sure very few people were collecting any more than just the amiibo they wanted, with critics saying this game felt rather uninspired and extremely short, and the gameplay felt very similar to the past Tipping Stars game. It's kind of asking for a lot, especially since you'd need to spend over $100 in amiibo just to unlock the full game, which was extremely short. And that was the beginning of a long 8-year Mario vs. Donkey Kong drought, which made fans desperately want a new game in the franchise. And then this happened.
Oh my god!
This is it. I knew it. Actually, I didn't know it. I don't know what I'm saying. A re-release of a game that technically started it all, Mario vs. Donkey Kong on Nintendo Switch. A remake of the first Mario vs. Donkey Kong game back on the GBA. This remake was released February 16th, 2024, and it fills me with so much joy. This recreates the iconic stages and even adds an additional 2 worlds and a time attack mode. I specifically love the new modern style and overall jazzy feel the game has, especially with the remade original soundtrack. The new local multiplayer mode is really enjoyable, and it's the first Mario vs. Donkey Kong game that features it. Here, the second player plays as Toad, and there's an additional silver key in the level which gives each player their own challenge for that stage. It's not often that a single player Mario experience adds such an in-depth multiplayer mode. Local multiplayer also allows a player who died during the level to simply respawn back in. I'm not sure why the second player is Toad and not Luigi, but it's still cool to see this here, and I'm a Toad-loving guy. I'm loving little baby Toad. There's also the inclusion of a casual mode, which removes the classic lives from the game and just respawns you at your closest checkpoint. The only thing I don't love about this game is the kind of stiff animations. Like, the movement itself is snappy and feels great, I just kind of wish Mario had a little more expression. But I also get they are trying to remake the classic Game Boy Advance game. Oh, also it's great to hear Charles Martinet's voice again. Welcome back. You've signed a picture for me. You've signed a picture for me, and I love it. Other than that, it makes everything about the original game even better, and the inclusion of multiplayer absolutely enhances the experience. The game also scored critically well, and it's very promising. So although I talked about the rise and fall of the franchise, it finally seems like Nintendo might be in a new phase of the Mario vs. Donkey Kong series, and we might finally see a renewed rise of this beloved franchise. The series mainly fell due to its overly gimmicky and dated experimental features they tried to shoehorn in, like a cumbersome tipping system and the overall lack of creativity and passion by the developers during the time of the dying Wii U. I think it's safe to say that the touchscreen era of Nintendo is over, and their 2D strategy puzzle games are probably most likely over as well. But it'll be interesting to see if this series will once again see a rise in popularity now that it's on a console with over 130 million units out there. And I don't think it's the last we'll see of the Mario vs. Donkey Kong series. But what do you think? If you like this video, feel free to check out another. And thanks again to Surfshark VPN for sponsoring this video. You can check them out, the first link in the description. Also, if you like this, consider becoming a channel member. I'll see you in the next one. See you later.